I guess I would tell someone like, hey, the first few are probably gonna suck because you're gonna have to figure out like like the timing. Because I remember like getting to the match and sitting around for like, oh, sick, there's my thumb. Let's go.
By the way, I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell that is. I think just on this, if it recognizes a thumbs up, it does one. So
I've seen that. No, I've seen that before. It was cool though. I want to sort of do it again.
But it literally threw me. Yeah, you made it. I don't know why. To be honest, on one of my episodes, it happened before, and I thought I triggered it, and I went to go edit that part of the episode out because I go, oh, I must have pressed the button. No, I think it's just when it see it, you physically do it. This was just you doing it, and the AI generated in here made it. No. Now, see, now I think you. Oh.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. What?
What is up, everybody? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. Now, I have to tell you guys this. We have an excellent guest here today. He's been killing. I mean, now it looks like, I don't know what he's doing over there, but we'll get back to him in a second. We'll give him a minute to figure out his stuff on his side. But before we get back to the main event, let's just remind you guys of what it is you need to do. First, if you're not following us on our social media, we're at Grappling Hour everywhere. So you can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. And like and subscribe because we have a lot of content that's coming up over the next month. August is a very busy month for us. We're going to be doing a live fight companion out in Vegas for the Craig Jones Invitational and ADCC. And we'll be bringing on a lot of friends onto the show to serve as correspondents, many of whom you have seen on this show as former guests. I won't name names, but our guest today knows one of them, and his last name rhymes with Schminther. So there is that. So he'll be joining us as one of our correspondents. Very happy to have him back on. He is one of the sweetest people in all of jiu-jitsu, which says something because he's aggressively violent. When you roll with him, it's not fun. Wouldn't recommend it. 0 out of 10 stars. Let's go to this. If you guys like our content and you want to see these interviews 30 days before anybody else, head on over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/grappling hour. If you go there and for just $5 a month, you can see our interviews 30 days before anybody else. And if you want to pay a few extra dollars more, we do extra bonus content not available anywhere else, including tape studies with the athletes where we watch their matches with them and get insight that you will not see anybody else or anywhere else. You can also check out a segment called Roast Rav, where people roast my competition footage, which oddly is still our most popular segment for some reason. Can't put a finger on it. Don't know why. Additionally, we also put on extra interviews, extra bonus stuff that, again, you will not find anywhere else. You can like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And if you have no idea what you want to comment on, by the end of this interview, we will give you something to comment on in the comment section. So pay attention for that one. And if you want to join the discussion that we have here, maybe you want to continue talking with us, you can go to our Discord at Grappling Hour. All right, our guest. Well, our guest is he's a big guy. He's tall, and we know how we feel. Tall people usually don't like him. This guy, though, very good at jiu-jitsu, very entertaining. He's part of this San Diego crew of individuals, this motley crew of guys that come out there, and when you see them on a card, you get very excited. Now, granted, something interesting happened with this young man when it came to competing. I hit up our aforementioned friend, Bobby Winthard, and I was like, oh, Bobby's going to be competing at this great tournament called Mad Assassin. That sounds really fun. And then for whatever reason, I see him being like, hey, go Breylor. And I go, is he going to compete in the same tournament? And he's cheering on Breylor. Like, what is happening here? He's like, oh, dude, I had to drop out, but Breylor's going to go win it. And I was so happy to see that, yes, indeed, that was the case. Had a very fun tournament this past weekend and became your Mat Assassin champion. So we thought for the very first time, we would bring on one Breylor Grout. Breylor, how are you doing, sir?
What's going on, Raf? I'm doing good. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, how did this come together? How did you get that spot? Because I did tell Bobby this, which is it's not out of the realm of possibility. He's so nice. He would be like, let's go, even if you were in his division.
Dude, that's so true. Bobby's just such a good guy, he's the homie. But yeah, so basically this came about because Justin Flores, our coach, he hit us up on our Instagram group and he's like, hey, my buddy Robbie D'Onofrio's running this tournament. It's called Mad Assassin. They're giving out 10K in case you guys want to sign up. So I was like, all right, count me in. Bobby, said count himself in too. And so of course, me and Bobby are good buddies. So to be in a bracket for 10,000, we're like, all right, well, let me confirm we'll be on opposite sides of the bracket, blah, blah, blah. We did. We made a little gentleman's agreement too, that if we both ended up competing and if one of us won, the other guy would pay the, travel expenses over there at least to make it count. So luckily it didn't come to that because Bobby, ended up pulling out of the tournament. So he didn't go over there. I was able to cruise in and I just flew out solo over to Florida this past weekend. Took on, 5 dudes, won them all, and brought back a stack of cash. So it was a pretty solid weekend.
I mean, congratulations. Let's just say that and get that out of the gate. That's really awesome to see. But I just laughed so hard because I recognize when those posters go up. I had told him, I was like, oh man, I didn't even know this was in existence. I'll keep my eyes on it. And then, of course, seeing you in that mix, I said, oh, that's a good pick. That's really, really cool to see. So when you were there, though, do you mind kind of walking us through some of the matches? I don't know that everybody got to see them, but do you mind walking us through, let's say, your first match? How did your first match go?
For sure. So my first match was actually the only match I didn't finish by submission in this one. I was going against this guy. His name is Hugh Poley, and I like to look up videos of all my opponents always, regardless of skill level. I like to know what are they good at, just study up a little bit. I feel like if you can handle that and not get overwhelmed by it, then it's sort of foolish not to. Some people don't like to think about it and it can get in their head. So, that's, it works for them to not, but it doesn't do that to me as much. So anyways, so this guy, Hugh Poley, he was the only guy I couldn't find any videos on, but I knew he was an MMA guy. So I was basically like, all right, he's a bit smaller than me. He's going to be tough, wrestler style probably. I went in there. I was able to hit him with a nice inside Koichi snap, basically kicking his foot out, snap in the direction he goes, that I kicked the foot, and then took his back there. Couldn't get the rear naked choke. He ended up getting out into close guard. I was able to get a shoulder crunch sweep and then sweep him to mount and then step over for a triangle after I got my points. But the dude was tough. I could not finish this guy. And to start off an event, squeezing some submissions and not being able to get the finish, you're sort of you can sometimes be in your own head a little bit. For me, I was like, fuck, I thought I should have had this guy 3 times. What happened? What's going on? So, I guess that fired me up for the next ones because then it was all submissions from there.
Good, man. I mean, so you mentioned something that I think is very important. This whole tape study aspect. Some athletes don't, some athletes do. I think it's kind of important. I think as a professional, it should be part of the gig. But you also mentioned that sometimes people get overwhelmed by the information. I did want to ask this specific to this case, though, which is you were trying to look it up. You couldn't find anything. That's happened to me in a couple cases where I've been like, hey, let's see what this guy likes to do. And then for whatever reason, I find 0 results. How long do you go through the search engines before you go all right, I'm not finding anything? Because I think I have a 10-minute time limit before I go, I'm moving on.
Honestly, yeah. Sometimes it's even less for me for that, but some guys, and not to try to be too dismissive of their, skills, but I'll watch 1 or 2 videos. I'm like, okay, this is sort of a match where I can do whatever, don't really got to worry about it too much. But for him, I actually was able to find some matches, but they were MMA fights from 10 years ago. So I didn't even watch them because they're so outdated. So yeah, basically, like you said, I give it maybe 3 to 5 minutes of clicking around. I search Flow, I search YouTube, I Google, try to find their Instagram, see what we can get. And then if I exhaust all those sources and don't have anything, then I'm like, all right, well, let's just go out there and just do our thing.
I find that a lot of times. So the competitive me, sure, I'll look it up a little bit, but I also do play-by-play commentary, or I'll do tape study analysis. And especially for the play-by-play, I'm
Yeah.
commentating a lot of amateurs. So a lot of them have 0-0 records. So then when I go to their Instagram and say, like, show me your highlight reels, they're on private, and it drives me up the wall because I go, I'm trying to talk about you, and I have very little evidence to say good things about you. So when people are like, oh, you didn't know that fighter, I go, one, they're a 0-0 record. So, but two,
Yeah.
if I am finding more for the jiu-jitsu side, and they do have an MMA fight, it doesn't tell you a lot per se, but it might give you instincts that they like to do. And at the very least, I'll take some hints rather than zeros. So kudos
I
for
agree.
that.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Like, and sometimes like going into a tournament and I can only find gi footage on the guy, you know, it doesn't directly translate as well. I'll know some things though, like if he pulls in the gi, I'm like, okay, he might pull in no gi, but then again, maybe not, because a lot of guys no gi games are different. But yeah, I'll take what I can get, which sometimes isn't a lot, you know, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I'd like to tell people it is kind of cool to readjust, or at least be like, you know, so much of this is trial and error. So at the very least, it gives you a start of a game plan. And I propose that more than not for most people when they're doing that. So that starts off, and you mentioned the first one, no submission there, but then for the rest of the day, submissions all the way through. So talk to me about your first submission that you hit in your second match.
Yeah. So second match was against this guy, Brandon George, who trains, I think, over at New Wave now. And I've seen him in some divisions I think I've been in. I recognize the name. And I know he's like won an ADCC Open or so at -99. So I sort of, had him in mind. I was like, okay, I'll probably get a good match with this guy. So I maybe give him a little bit more emphasis in like the film study than some other guys. There's probably like 5 or 6 guys that I would want, in the bracket, maybe 7 or 8 that I watched like 30 to 40 minutes of film, like, maybe less, maybe like 15 to 30 minutes, somewhere in there. But then everyone else, it's really quick. But yeah, him, I watched a bit more. I knew he was a guard guy, sort of has like a lazy guard. He was going to pull. So I'm like, all right, that's cool for me because I want to be on top. So that'll just get the party started. I can start launching my passing chains. And then in my notes, actually, that I took for him, it was take risks flying on submissions because doesn't seem to scramble too hard to get to his feet. So I was like, all right, I can jump on necks, I can jump on arms, legs, whatever. I can pop back up if it doesn't go well. So anyways, match starts, he pulls, I start some passing combinations. We go near the edge of the mat. We get moved back to the center of the mat. Then he was basically, I go to start another passing chain. He's sort of leaving his left leg high up in my, like armpit, sort of like a lazy Z guard in a sense. And so I see it there. So I'm like, all right, here's the ankle. Let's send it. And so basically just maybe like 40 seconds into the match, I think. Yeah, caught his ankle. I got a nice belly down ankle lock. Got the sub there. So that was, that was the one that got me pretty hyped because I was like, all right, now we're rolling, Now I got the submissions. Now we're feeling a little bit better. And that definitely got it going. And then in the third match, who was the third match? Was that James Brasco? Yeah, that was James Brasco. This dude, I'd seen him like competing, I'd seen his name in ADCC trials events and stuff. I talked to him after, found out he's an ADCC vet. Dude's a straight legend. He's like 51, just scrapping it out there, like getting after it. It's sick to see. I was like, yeah, I want to be like you when I'm older. And so he actually took out a tough guy, a really tough, again, a guy who I had my eyes on, this guy, Joao Costa, who trains over at Wagner's gym, I'm pretty sure. And the guy, Joao Costa, like, just to be blunt, like, no insult to him, but he's got a pretty stally, disengagey style. So I was like, oh, this is going to be a fucking annoying-ass match. So once James Brasco won, I was like, okay, sick. But so he actually hit some sick, like, arm drag to, like, double leg on me. I don't even know. The dude closed distance like freaking this. And then he took me down. I was like, okay, whatever, no points period. I was sort of planning on pulling at some point in this match because I figured he might have good wrestling. So I was going to try to pull to his legs. But yeah, so he blasted me down. I was trying to scoop to legs. He's basically framing on my face and then trying to get like a K guard or double outside Ashy entry. He basically left his far arm hanging. So I was able to just catch that one up and then whip it over for a nice armbar. Was going belly down, and then he tapped. And dude, the guy's hilarious. I just got to say this because after the match, he comes up to me and like we were talking a little bit before. I was like, "Hey, let's have a good match, man." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, you too." And then him and Joel Costa were just scrapping it out, and Joel Costa tackled him off the mat at some point, and James Brasco just lands back flat on the hardwood freaking floor at like a wedding venue. And I'm like, I knew this guy was 50, so watching it, I was like, holy shit, I hope he's okay. And he sort of just laid there for like a minute. I was like, is he knocked out? But he gets back up, wins the ref decision. So, anyways, back to my match with him. Yeah, I was telling him, I was like, yeah, man, by the way, I don't want to go on this hardwood floor. I'm going to try to stay in the center. But yeah, he kept backing up towards the end. Oh yeah, and sorry, I got sidetracked. I'm just talking about this guy. What I was going to say though is, yeah, so I was tracking up with him beforehand. He seemed like a cool guy. We were talking during the match. After the match, he comes up to me and he's like, hey man, nice match. I just wanted to know that if I didn't tap to that armbar, were you going to rip my arm off? I'm like, what? I was like so taken aback by that. I was like, I wouldn't want to, like, ideally not, but you know, it's a 10K prize. But yeah, I just had to throw that one in there. Pretty freaking funny.
I mean, to be fair, you know, it's a concern. Now, listen, I understand, you know, as a resident old person in jiu-jitsu, I kind of understand where he's coming from. It's just, it is difficult to tell young, hungry savages like, okay, go, but then reduce kill mode in a certain way. Like it's very difficult to do. And that's not to say that some submissions you won't have control and you can kind of figure out where you're going to go from there. But you put money in front of some of these hungry hippos, arms and limbs be damned. And you know, even from your own comment section, you had Ian telling you double or nothing for your prize winnings. So it sounds like you're not even safe when you go back to your home gym.
I mean, luckily Ian's all bark and no bite, so I don't got much to worry about there. But I'm more worried about James Brasco on top of me, honestly. Ian's easy work. But no, but bringing it back to what James said though is I don't even think he was asking me in any sense to like, you know, like in a bad way. If I would have, like, he would have been mad. Like, this guy's a straight warrior. I think he was just like, I don't know, we were chopping up during the match. He realized I was, you know, I guess not an asshole, and like he was like maybe just wondering like, oh, if I didn't tap, is this guy like crazy enough to do this? But he's funny. I think he was also sort of just messing with me. I don't know. He's just
I mean, let's put it this way. I find that post-match discussion as a humorous conversation that only you and him get to really have. Like, it might not even make sense to the rest of us because clearly he was okay with going, especially after going flat on his back on hardwood floor. Dude, they hit my hip on hardwood floor at one tournament. And I was like, yo, why do people do this? This is dumb. Like, you know what I mean? God. Like, somebody was trying to get a takedown. I was like, I can't even be mad at this dude. He's trying to score points. It's just, you know, you have this moment where I like to tell people afterwards, I was like, ow. Like, ow, you dick. And then afterwards, they're like, hey, do you want to keep going? And I was like, yeah, of course I want to keep going. What the fuck? This doesn't happen just for nothing now. So I always like to tell people,
it's brutal.
You know what happens is your brain goes into a different level and then you just go, I'll deal with it afterwards. And then you deal with it afterwards and people were like, how are you? And I'm like, my ass hurts, dude. This just sucks. So when I hear a dude flatbacks off that, oof, and then still has a great match with you, props and all the respect in the world to him, man.
Dude, what a beast. I know. I just like, after competing against that guy and talking with him, I'm like, oh, this guy's a legend. This guy's, you know, super cool. So all respect to him. But yeah, anyways, on to the next match then,
on to the next match. Absolutely.
So, okay. So the next one was this guy. I'd actually, I was supposed to go against him first round at some tournament a few years ago. So I remember watching some stuff on him a few years ago, but he pulled out. His name's Sam Barboza. He trains somewhere Eastern United States, 10th planet, I'm pretty sure. But he's got a crazy weird style. Like, he just like lays down and like lets the guy pass his guard and then like does nothing and then tries to counter the guy. And like, it seems like maybe he does a lot of EBI rule sets. Like that could be good there because if you're good at finishing on the back, then if you survive. But he was doing it in the ADCC rule set this past weekend, and it was working for him all the way up to me. He took out this guy before me, this guy Nick Hartman, who was a big freaking oak tree, and I was like, I had my eye on him. I was like, he's going to be a tough match. And then this guy Sam Barboza sort of played possum and got up and double legged the guy in points period. So, anyways, I realized the guy Sam Barbosa just like lays down in the middle of matches and just like does lazy stuff and lets the guy pass his guard, just trolls almost, And so in my head, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna troll him right when this match starts. So right when the match starts, I fucking just like lay down and just Nick Diaz Anderson Silva stare at him as he does the same thing. I'm just looking at him for a second, and then just the whole audience laughs for a sec. And then I get up and just shove him down and start trying to pass. And it was funny. He was like, "What? You ain't about that life?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "Maybe we'll see." And I passed his guard, which he let me, so it wasn't really a guard pass. And it's weird, man. When a guy's not doing anything, it's hard to get things on him. It's a frustrating style to deal with. He's just letting me get him in side control, but none of these pins feel good because he's not resisting and giving me under his elbows like I need. He's just laying on his back and just framing. So I was like, okay, I don't I was like, I'm not falling for any of your tricks, so I'm gonna hang back and maybe play pass it till points or see if I can catch a Darce. So anyways, he ends up getting some cool sweep on me. I don't know how it happened. He got his guard back for whatever reason. He decided to try jiu-jitsu before the points period, and he got double underhooked from a butterfly sweep and then swept me over. But it was before points, so I didn't really resist too much. But I was like, okay, I'll stay here, and then when points period is, then I'll look for the sweep. But then so he sat back to his ass and was sort of trying to just go attack my legs or go Baron Bolo, I think. And then I'm pretty good at countering when guys are trying to bolo and catching their inside knee and a knee bar. I've done it multiple matches before. And so he was sort of going for that. And I was almost playing possum a little bit in a sense to see if I could get the leg. And luckily, he sort of just left that leg hanging for a sec. I was able to catch a knee bar. He tapped out pretty quick. So that was sweet, I was like, that wasn't a match I loved. That was just a weird one, He's got a crazy style.
Sam is a friend of the show as well. So I know what you're talking about, which is it's easy to almost fall into a lull if you're not focused because you're like, what is this? And you can ask Bobby. I'm a counterpuncher, but what's really difficult to be a counterpuncher to? Someone with Bobby's pressure, where I was like, oh, normally this works. This is not going to be fun. Sure. So you guys are very well versed at, even if you don't have a pin that you like, you're still getting to a top position that's really, really good for you. So it almost becomes a matter of time. The difficult part is always, okay, if you got a dance partner that you're a little suspicious of, you don't want to rush into something that's going to make you lose, even though you had the top position.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funky styles, but that's the fun part about jiu-jitsu, right? Styles make the matches and things like that. So everyone's got these different styles. How are they going to fit together? Let's see. Yeah,
I always tell people, if they don't like a certain style, especially if somebody's rolling with me and they're like, I don't really like the way you roll. And I was like, well, then don't roll with me, dude. You figure out where you want to go. I was like, I'm not stupid enough to think I'm going to out wrestle you for 15 minutes. I'm not going to forehead wrestle you. That's dumb. I go, I'm just going to play a certain thing. If you're good at it, you'll figure it out. And sometimes people do pretty easily. And you go, okay, let's see, there you go. And I just always tell people, you can't tell somebody else how to roll. The whole point is you come with whatever you've got, and then you trial and error it. You see if this works. If it doesn't, you make adjustments. And at its core, good jiu-jitsu should always win, though.
Exactly. And that's how successful styles get made, at least, not putting someone in a cookie cutter model. Like you're saying, you got to let them run with it. All these unorthodox guys who do weird stuff, if it works for them, and if they have some coach that's trying to put them on the straight and narrow, it's not going to work, And it's sort of the same for me for a while. I was always so submission oriented, before I started training Legion, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a second. But before that, I didn't really compete much. I would just be in training and only look for submissions, no position whatsoever. So luckily it was allowed to be that way, which sort of helped my style now. But then once I got into the, then once I was good enough at the submissions, then started focusing on the position and then putting everything together, then it's been helping out a lot. But, you know, if my style was disrupted from the start, I'm not sure, you know, if it would have been as successful, at least successfully submission oriented as it is.
That makes sense. Well, that was the semifinals, correct?
Yeah. So then the finals match was against Achilles Rocha, Wagner Rocha's son. Dude, the kid's 17 and made it to the finals of this absolute tournament, and he was definitely not the biggest guy in there. I'm like, damn, that, you know, straight savage. So props to him. And yeah, I saw him just getting after it the whole night. I knew that was going to be a scrappy one as well. He seems very hard to catch, hard to submit, especially with joint locks. He was eating freaking like toe holds, knee bars all throughout this tournament. I was watching, like cringing in the side, like, oh my God, is this kid about to get his knee blown out? So in my head going into the match, even beforehand, I knew that. And then especially after seeing that in the night of, I was like, all right, if I get this kid's leg, I'll probably have to really, you know, freaking put some mustard on it to get the finish. I don't know if I, you know, like, and it might not even work. Might just like freaking screw this kid's leg up. He won't even tap and get out. So I was like, ideally, we catch the neck, because then if they don't tap, you know, obviously they're going to sleep. So, yeah, luckily that game plan ended up working out to a T. I was able to come out right off the bat, you know, get far side hand control, heavy collar tie with my free hand, and then was able to punch a quick overhook and get a nice Uchimata like 3 seconds into the match. And then he sort of went with it and like jumped and like tried to fly for an armbar, which I saw he was good at. So I was aware of that, sort of stubbed in, pulled out. And then, yeah, from there, basically he was already starting to like invert in a sense. I was like on top of him. And so I sort of switched to like a stack pass, double unders type deal, roll him over, and then literally like freaking so quick into the match, like maybe like 15 seconds into the match, I already got a hold of his neck. And I was like, oh my, is it going to be like this easy? And then, yeah, luckily just held the neck, because I rolled him over from the stack pass. He basically went sprawl position, or, you know, like, yeah, sprawl, or I was sprawl position. So I went front headlock, started transitioning to a Darce. He almost jumped and took my back with some Darce defense, which is the one I've done a lot. So I was a little aware of it, and prevent him from keeping the far hook. Really kept his head in there. Didn't want to let that head loose so he could slip out. Luckily, that back attempt on his part failed. So then I was able to really punch the Darce, baseball slide, pulled full guard, and then, yeah, tapped him maybe in like, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe a little more than that, somewhere around there. But it was a pretty quick one. And yeah, I mean, and then that was the finals. So that solidified $10,000. Man, the whole freaking, it's so weird. I was pretty calm leading into this tournament. I don't know why, like very calm, especially like day before, day of. And in my head, I was thinking about beforehand, I was like, oh shit, like I hope I don't get overwhelmed at the thought of competing for $10,000, because it's a big deal. It can maybe, you know, obviously make me just be a little emotional or something out there. But yeah, man, the night before had great freaking sleep, ate breakfast. I was able to take a power nap the day of. So that just goes to show I was able to shut my mind off and in control of it, which was awesome. And then, yeah, throughout the whole tournament, I was very calm. Even leading into the finals, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know if I thought of the $10,000 too much, honestly. I was just thinking about jiu-jitsu at that point, and I just want to win every tournament I'm in, regardless if there's money or not. So I was just normal jiu-jitsu mode. But then, man, the second he freaking tapped out, and you know, once I realized I had won, I like sort of lost it for a second. That's when like freaking, you know, just, I don't know, the emotions of the event came out. I was just screaming, just cussing, just saying some dumb stuff. So I was pretty hyped after that, you know, to put it lightly.
Okay, this is a non-kid show. So when you say you're screaming out crazy things, what exactly are you screaming out? Like, are you screaming out conspiracy theories? Are you screaming out just like curse words? Because here's what I want to tell you. To me, it's very hard to unsettle me. And I'm usually the guy with like headphones in the background telling camera angles to go. Like, if I see somebody's passionate, I say stick with that. Now, if I hear them cursing, I go, is this network or is this streaming? Because if it's streaming, let him do what he wants. Now, granted, within reason. But then the third option is just complete gibberish. So are you yelling any one of those three? Because I can't get a feel of what in your head is really insane things that you're yelling out.
I think just full-blown racism. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what? That was the answer we were hoping for. Good.
No, I was just screaming. I don't know, just fuck yeah, like just making grunt noises, just letting like all this steam out. Basically, just turned into a wild animal there for a sec. I was just like walking around the mat, just screaming, just nothingness, and curse words, basically. So yeah. Nothing out of the ordinary, but anyone who'd seen me all calm that night and then turn into that, they're probably like, oh shit, okay, he's got some soul in him.
I do like to tell people this. You don't know what you're going to do until you win, because you may be the most composed, stoic person. And then somebody says, oh, by the way, for doing jiu-jitsu, which you love, you get money now. And in a sport where we don't get money, you get the Maury Povich, you're not the father responses that may not happen in other sports where people are doing the robot, they're yelling stuff at you. And like I said, if I have a cameraman on it, I'll just be like, yeah, stick with him. Yeah.
Keep him.
Yep. As long as we're not getting racist, I think we're good.
Exactly.
This is pretty good. No, but for me, I just go, again, all of it's within reason. I just like the fact that the one thing I don't love as a TV guy, and I don't know how to find an equal balance to this, but everybody subscribes to this act like you've been there before sort of mentality. And that's terrible for TV. Nobody wants to watch something and at the very end just be like, I did win. You're like, dude, this is boring. Like, at least be happy that you won. You don't have to like oversell it. Just give us something, because audiences want a release at the end of watching a 3-hour show. If you just no sell it, they're going to be like, why did I pay money for this? So it's one of the things that I try to do is I go, act natural, try to be your authentic self. And if your authentic self is too much for television, I will cut away, but you're okay. I'm pretty sure 95% of you aren't going to be completely moronic when you do this. So when you're thinking like that though, and you are reacting like that, in the back of your head, are you thinking, what do you want to do with that $10,000? And now you don't got to cut Bobby anything. So you get to save a little bit of that extra money right there, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, what I was thinking is like, I don't know. I had ideas of what I would do with the money, beforehand. So I guess stuck with those, and it's nothing too fun, unfortunately, aside from, a few like maybe nights out or whatever, like, good meals. But I don't know. I do want to figure out some way to like hook up, my team, which will be nice. Like, I'm not sure whether that's just gonna be a few of them or a bunch of them. I'm still sort of brainstorming those ideas. I'm still only had like 10 hours of sleep in the past 2 nights, so I'm like haven't been able to process too much yet. But and then other plans, just paying off the credit cards. Woo, let's go. But
that's a responsible young man. That's good.
It's a party. It's a party. But otherwise not too much, man. But I'm gonna try to keep it going. I do things outside of jiu-jitsu where I try to make my money, which I've been studying up on a lot, like things in the stock market and stuff, which I've been getting a lot better at now. So might, try to leverage some of that into the trading stuff I've been doing, and just like size up a little bit. But yeah, just nothing too wild, unfortunately. But it'll be put to good use.
I'm glad that's the case, because where we left off on who's next, that was part of your information package, that pre-package that they rolled about you. They're like, looking pretty good at the stock market. And I go, all right, I hope that goes well for him. It should. And if that's the case, all things good. Otherwise, you're the guy who's competing. It's like, yo, I got some bills to pay, and stock market wasn't too good, man. So I'm sorry, I got to darce the hell out of you so that I can eat this week.
For sure. Yeah, it's funny. When I said that was like at the very beginning when I started poking into it and like didn't really know anything. So honestly, that's like I've been really studying up on that like heavily in the past few years, and like finally actually making some decent money off of it, and trying to continue to get it more and more. So I know that was funny how that was on that intro way back then, because literally I barely knew anything back then, but I was like, I'm gonna try this, and yeah, I'm actually still sticking with it. So yeah, who would have thunk it?
Hey, that's dope, man. I wish you continued success with that. I always tell people the minute you're on camera for one of those things, it doesn't matter how long you're talking, you don't always know what they're going to pull. So just assume they're going to pull everything. And in your particular case, the way it was edited for a split second, I just thought, look at this. Look at this day trader over here coming in, trying to make some money off of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just how the presentation happens on these things. So I just had a good laugh because I go, at the time, now granted, we look a little different now. At the time, clean cut kid talking about stock trading. I was like, okay. Now, my brother, that hair tells me you're having a lot of good surf days out there in San Diego.
Yeah, definitely. Fucking yeah, man. Dude, I didn't even plan on growing my hair out. I've done it a few times. Just got lazy for a haircut for a while. I'm like, I guess I'm doing it now. But yeah, what you're talking about, the way that they present it is, I'm sure that they probably don't want the audience to think that people who are doing having jobs outside of jiu-jitsu can go in and have success. So it would make sense that they would try to edit it and make it be like, hey, the guy who like works full time just gets fucked up in 30 seconds against Big Dan. That's sick. Let's go. So, it's funny from them. And, media's got to do what media's got to do. But yeah, no beef to them for putting it that way. But all I know is that they haven't had me back on a show ever since I've gotten a lot better. So, I'll run that same exact fucking interview again, and I'll make it count this time. So yeah.
I'll put it this way: you're building up quite the resume, where it does seem like a callback is more than likely at some point, and you're definitely on to bigger and better things elsewhere as well. I gotta tell you, you told me off air when I was like, "What do you have to plug?" You're like, "Well, I'm on Subversive," and I go, "Yeah, I know. I barely saw that myself. I normally am somewhat clued in on these things, but that one I was not clued in on. So I didn't see an updated roster. All of a sudden, I just see your photo go up. And when that happens, I go, I've approved most of these. What is this?" And I just looked at it and I go, oh, well, we'll take them. That sounds dope. And I'm interviewing them tomorrow. So A+ team. So good job, Subversive team. How did that come together? And tell me a little bit about how you're looking at that matchup. And that is going to be September 8th. Just for everybody who's wondering, tickets are available and more information to come.
Yeah, so that ended up coming about pretty recently, maybe a week or so ago. Michael from Subversive reached out and said, hey, someone fell out of a Nogi match at Subversive on September 8th. Let me know if you want the spot. And then, after some talking and negotiating and stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. The original opponent that I was going to go against got a different match. So then he had to search out and find someone else to take the match. So then, they found this dude who I think competed against Alex Grandy at one of the recent ones. And he looks like he's a wrestler, MMA guy. So yeah, that'll be a fun match. It might be a little bit tougher to get the judo going against him, but I'll give it a good old whirl. That's for sure. And then otherwise we'll get the jiu-jitsu going quick. But it's going to be a fun event, man, on the roof of the Hard Rock and hotel in San Diego. So it should be a fun time out there.
Yeah, super stoked for that. I'm getting in all my hellos now because I think this is normal. Raph, host Raph is always in a good mood. Producer Raph is going to be running around. So when that happens, Godspeed. No, I love you. You're great. But if I say racist things, that's probably the time you'll catch me doing that sort of a thing.
Then I'll know you just won a tournament, so you're good.
No. You know what it is? I just tell people, I'm like, it's that I don't want to be an asshole to everybody, so I kind of push myself away from everything because I'm so task oriented that I say we gotta deliver this or this has to work. And over the years now, I'm just in the control booth. So fortunately, I think, what was it, when Bobby competed on the last one, I had to tell someone to go get him and bring him to the control booth. And I was just like, hey, man, I just wanted to give you your props. We were running late in terms of airtime and we were trying to build back time, but I wanted to do post-match interviews. And I told him, I'm like, you did such a great job. I wanted to give you a post-match interview, but I have no time. So this is me saying I'm sorry. And, Thanks. And of course, Bobby's the nicest guy in the world. He's like, oh no,
Dude, you
man,
made
it's so
Bobby
cool.
cry. How could you? How
Hey,
could you?
I mean, you know what? Honestly, that would serve him right for beating me up. Honestly, now that I think about it, screw that guy. I want to
Yeah,
ask
gotta do
this
what you
though.
gotta do.
When I look at what you're talking about here, you mentioned that you won that competition, the Mad Assassin. I wanted to go back by a DARS, and yet you have a instructional system called the Unbeatable DARS. Now, listen, sir, you're already lanky as is. I'm not a fan of this because this is the type of stuff that is, yeah, don't, dude, I see the wingspan that you got here. I get it. You're a giant plane of a human being. It's just when it says unbeatable DARS, that is frightening to a person who is not super tall, but knows that you may still be able to be in guard and still probably get a DARS if you really chose to on most of us small people. So I guess my question to you is, how did you develop that, and when did you start recognizing that that was something that was in your wheelhouse, if you would?
Yeah. So first of all, the instructional is actually called Get to Darson. The Unbeatable Dars sounds like a good one though. I maybe should have gone with that, but yeah, but no worries at all. But so how I got the Dars going, I think it was actually one of the first few submissions I was shown when I started jujitsu way back in the day. Which was pretty lucky for me. I remember my very first class was a straight ankle. Then not too soon after that was a Dars choke. So I was like, okay, try this one. And yeah, kept going for it a lot. Had a really long arm, so I was looking for it from a bunch of positions. I used to train primarily in the gi, and so I'd even be hitting it in the gi. And my instructor, Rodrigo Medeiros, my old professor, he would, like encourage me to like try to use the Bravo or things like that with the lapel, and I would try it, but for some reason it just wasn't working the same. So I just kept going with the Dars, and made it work a bunch in the gi. So that now that I basically don't train in the gi whatsoever, in no gi, it's just so much more effective and easy. So it ended up working out.
Good for you, sir. That is awesome. And I do like that when you were mentioning it and that you were kind of locking up with Rocha, you kind of recognize, you're like, he's starting the defense. So as long as you keep things within the realm of control and contained, it actually kind of makes it so that once that first attempt happens, it's more in your world, where if they don't get that escape, it only means that you can double down on like cinching that in. So it almost works to your favor if you can kind of ride that out.
100%. No, 100%. Yeah. And like if they give a good effort to escape, and if, I cannot burn my arms out and keep them there, whether that attempt of defense, then yeah, better for me.
All right. So now as we go through this, I did want to kind of take a step back. We talked about your current success, but I wanted to know about origins, because this is usually the origin episode for most people who come on for the very first time. Do you remember your first jiu-jitsu class? And I guess before even that, were you an athletic kid? Were you competing in other sports? Like, how did you find your way into this wacky world of jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so not very athletic, which is funny enough coming from my whole family's a tennis family, actually. Like both of my older brothers have played professionally. My mom played professionally back in the day. Yeah, one of my brothers had the top serve speed at Wimbledon for a while. His name Taylor Dent. I think it's been broken now. He's got a different last name because we're technically half brothers, but basically brothers. That's what we say. Yeah, my mom was one of the top doubles players, like top 5 or something way back in the day. So tennis family, by no means jiu-jitsu family. They tried to have me play tennis when I was younger, and I don't know, it just never stuck. My dad tried to get me in like every sport under the sun, every ball sport at least, and I just A, didn't find them interesting, and B, wasn't good at them. So was not much of an athletic kid, and I would maybe skateboard around a little bit back in the day when I was in elementary, middle school, but that was the extent of my athleticism. Otherwise, I just like to play a lot of video games, actually. Like, that's basically what I would do all the time back in the day. Like growing up, like, middle school, basically up through high school is when I sort of, got more, obviously started doing jujitsu, and I started playing water polo. I did that before jujitsu, which was my first venture into athleticism. But yeah, again, like I said, nothing athletic really. But what funny enough though is I always hung around with older buddies who like lived in my neighborhood, and they were just neighbors who they'd come over all the time. They're basically like brothers to me. And so I had a trampoline and we'd always go out on the trampoline and just wrestle. And I really liked it. And I was like the runt of the group because they were older. So I would just literally get my ass whipped like endlessly, like would never like do anything offensive in those trampoline wrestling bouts. But I don't even know how we would win them. It's funny thinking back. I'm like, what was a win? Like just throwing them on their back, I guess. Like we knew some submissions like scissor lock around ribs or something, and like my buddies I would just get basically my ass whooped all the time, just tapping out left and right to nothingness submissions that we didn't even know what they were. But yeah. So, and then one of my buddies who was there whooping my ass a bunch, he was Brazilian and his dad actually had him training a little bit of jiu-jitsu. So eventually, sometime in high school, my dad like wanted to watch a big UFC fight. I think it was UFC 100, and I was like, "Oh, this was like interesting. Like, this is cool. I can watch this. I play fighting video games. I like fighting stuff. Let's watch fighting." And then I realized that there was like more of an art to what they're doing. And then my buddy who's Brazilian, he's like, "Yeah, dude, you should try jujitsu sometimes. Like, they teach me these things that I've been doing to you." And I was like, "Oh, so I can like learn how to like get better? Cool." So yeah, started watching UFC, then sort of got the itch to start training jujitsu there because I was like, okay, if it's wrestling with my buddies like we do on the trampoline, then that sounds fun. So yeah, started that when I was like 15, maybe 14 and a half. And yeah, so that basically got me in it. I started, actually, even before all that, I did boxing in sixth grade. So that was like one little burst of athleticism I had as a kid, but it was very short lived and like I was not very committed. Like I would like try to everything to get out of every session, like just to not show up. But one day, for whatever reason, we did try a jiu-jitsu class, and that's when they showed me a straight ankle lock. But then that was like the only jiu-jitsu exposure I had for like 5 years or so until high school. And then, yeah. Yeah, my buddy, unfortunately, who got me into jiu-jitsu, ended up passing away maybe like 2 or 3 years after getting me into it. And then I was training a lot and stuff. And he would always still even whoop my ass at that point. So I remember I wanted to just like whoop his ass or something, basically. And then unfortunately, yeah, he ended up, he was drunk after a party one night, ended up walking around and getting hit by a car and passed away. And so that sort of led me to, I don't know, just want to stick with it, for good for a while, just sort of for him in a sense. So yeah, basically been riding with it since 2010, training for like 14 years now, but I didn't start competing though until I got out of college because I was then working a full-time job and I was like just bored, not doing, not having what do I look forward to now? What do I do? So I started competing then about like 6 or so years ago.
Okay. So here's the good news. You laid out a very large canvas of information. So I have to break it down bit by bit by bit. But I'll start by offering my condolences. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am, but I'm sure you're very much honoring your friend's memory by continuing to go. I would say, though, one of the few things that does happen in that regard is you're like, man, obviously you missed them, but you're like, damn, dude, I got better. I'd like to roll with you now because now I kind of know what I'm doing. Damn it. But I'm so sure that if you had the opportunity to talk with that guy, it's just like any of us who have friends who during our formal years kind of give us that inspiration. We all have those people who gave us the intro to this crazy thing. And when you mentioned like trampoline wrestling, I remembered like all of us have friends who you'd scrap with and you never thought anything of it. It was just something fun to do. So when you do those sorts of things, now when people talk about my defense or that I'm really durable, I go, well, that's all from then. Like I'm not any different than I was back then. I just learned how to take a good beating and understand that I'm like, well, I'm still in it. And these guys got tired just trying to beat me up. So I guess that's literally my superpower.
100%. It's a real thing, bro. You're not like, we're joking sort of, but we're also really not. Like there's truth to it.
But I do want to kind of go back into a couple things. You also mentioned video games. So you mentioned some fighting games, but I'd like to know specifics because in the future, I think I want to try and get like a video game competition going. amongst the jiu-jitsu athletes. And I've heard rumors that a certain head of Legion, if you would, a founder of Legion, was really particular about his Mario Kart abilities. And that made me wonder, I mean, it seems easy to make something like that happen in the future, but what video games appealed to you, or would you say that you were good at growing up?
So I would play a lot of everything. Like I ended up playing the UFC game once it came out. Got pretty hooked on that with my buddies, and I think I played that even before I started watching, watching UFC. So I was like, oh, cool. And obviously, like fighting games like Street Fighter, played all the sorts of those. Played a bunch of shooters, Grand Theft Auto. Obviously. But really, honestly, I was a lot more into like Fallout and like Elder Scrolls, like more role playing games, sort of. And like I've lost like a significant chunk of my life to World of Warcraft back in the day. So like that was my shit. Like yeah, that was like straight like addiction throughout middle school. I wasn't like very good, honestly, up until maybe high school. I figured it out, but yeah, that so not even so yeah, I guess I liked UFC, like not even necessarily because I played fighting video games, but I just liked, I guess, violence in the video game facet in any, capacity. And yeah, I guess the UFC sort of fulfilled that from a sporting perspective.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, at least in the UFC, this avatar is getting the shit kicked out of him, not you. So you're like, yeah, I can do this forever. It sounds fun. It's not me. It's that
Yeah.
dude. That dude sucks. This guy's pretty good.
Exactly.
So let's continue that sort of thought process as well. So you also mentioned in that kind of preface that you didn't compete for a long time. And that's actually something I can relate to, because for years, I was always the guy helping people get ready for competitions. I was always the guy who said, nah, I'm just not interested in it. But I was happy to be in the room for my team and go coach them and be there. So you mentioned it had to do with kind of college, but do you remember the kind of moment when you said like, yeah, I'll go compete? Because clearly you're pretty good at it. So you did have a good instinct to go with that. It just might have taken a while to unlock that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't very even competitive just in anything really, like too much growing up. Like it's funny, like my dad's super competitive and stuff, and I wasn't really up until I started, maybe doing jujitsu a little bit more. But well, I did a few competitions here and there, like as a white or blue belt. I remember I did like one or two. I just remember like not feeling good, not feeling like I was doing jujitsu right, just nervous. Just I was like, why would I want to feel this? Like this doesn't make sense. Like this sucks. And I had shit results, so that probably didn't really back it up. And then I tried like one competition in college. I remember my buddy John Murphy. He was like a white or blue belt at the time, and he was just like always just fucking everyone up. And he wanted to go compete, and I was like, all right, let's go. I'll take a trip out there. And did a tournament up in college. Mediocre results too, so it didn't stick then. And then I remember I came back to San Diego. Maybe before I graduated, I did one competition in San Diego in the summer, I think, because I was a blue belt. I remember actually finally submitting someone in a competition. Before that, I had maybe like 2 wins and like 4 losses or something throughout my competition attempts. And like my wins were just like some bullshit point wins that I didn't even care about. It was just, I don't know, for just didn't feel like I did anything. But then I remember when I finally got a submission. Maybe this was like my sophomore summer in college or something. But yeah, I did one tournament. I got a submission, and I remember I was like, "Ooh, that was sort of cool, actually." And then basically, again, didn't really do them again for a while. But then once I graduated from college, I was just sort of just bored. Like I said, I don't know. I was like, all right, oh yeah, and also because like I always sort of had a dream of like becoming a UFC fighter. That's in a lot of like guys who do jujitsu's maybe initial reasons for getting into it. It's like I want to go and fight in the UFC. So I basically realized I was like, oh yeah, I haven't really done much to push towards that. So let's get some jujitsu competition just to see how it feels and get some experience. I did do some, on a different note, I did some striking and stuff in college. So it's not like I wasn't getting towards that at all fully, but I wasn't doing the competition stuff, wasn't closing the distance. So yeah, then did a competition and actually I remember finally took a gold medal, and it was against the same guy. I had 2 matches against him, and I submitted him both times. And I remember I was just like, a gold medal? Oh my god! And I was just like fucking sort of hyped on that. So then, yeah, ended up keeping them going after that. Really.
For somebody who took a while to get to that process, what is something that you wish you could have told your younger self about competition that would either give better insight or maybe would have led to better results?
I mean, let's see. It's weird because I don't even know if I like cared about the competitions too much back then, and I didn't do great still. I would say just don't care about the result. Just go try to do jujitsu. I think also, I guess I would tell someone like, hey, the first few are probably gonna suck because you're gonna have to figure out like the timing. Because I remember like getting to the match and sitting around for like, oh, sick, there's my thumb. Let's go. But I remember, yeah, like getting to the tournament and like sitting around for like 2 hours, and then out of nowhere they're like, "All right, you're up." I'm like, "Oh, I'm up. Okay. Oh, we're competing now. Okay. Oh, I'm submitted. Okay. See you later." So getting the timing down was something. Just figuring out like when am I gonna go, and then also once we figure that out, then it was like getting a decent warm up beforehand so that I could actually like not just get gassed out in like 30 seconds. So, and those two things were pretty big. And then it's impossible to not care about the results too much, especially when you're new to it. You're just nervous, you probably are just like, oh, I just hope I do good. But that's something I would tell them, just think less about the results, think more about the jujitsu you're doing. But really, initially, yeah, the timing of the matches and figuring out how to warm up were two big things that helped me.
Those are big. And by the way, I'm sorry, I don't know what the hell that is. I think just on this, if it recognizes a thumbs up, it does one. So
I've seen that. No, I've seen that before. It was cool though. I want to sort of do it again.
But it literally threw me. Yeah, you made it. I don't know why. To be honest, on one of my episodes, it happened before, and I thought I triggered it, and I went to go edit that part of the episode out because I go, oh, I must have pressed the button. No, I think it's just when you physically do it, it just does it.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I watch like Ariel Helwani's MMA show, and guys like just do random shit and things pop up, and I'm like, oh, okay, like
Yeah, but normally somebody triggers that. This was just you doing it, and the AI generated in here made it. No. Now, see, now I think you. Oh,
oh, let's go, let's go.
I have to be honest. I didn't know that's what this shit did. Like, I know a lot of my tech. I didn't know it did that, and now it's making the edit, so I'm not editing this out.
No, this is staying in.
So, listen, I know we're circling toward the end here, but I did want to get just this last question.
We got a few more minutes. We can go five or 10 more minutes if you want. Yeah, no real rush, but yeah, I'm having a good time.
I did want to make sure that we circled to this, which is a formula question that we ask on this show is always, obviously, you tell me about your first class, but we also like to ask, when did you fall in love with jiu-jitsu? Because it's difficult to do it for more than just a hobby. You're doing it at a very solid, high professional level. So when did you kind of come to this place where you said, it's going to be more than just a hobby?
Yeah, let's see. I don't know. I don't know if there was ever like an aha moment, I just was sort of doing it for a while. It would be fun, show up like, hey, this is a good way to do exercise. I love obviously wrestling on the trampoline with my buddies, so it's like not hard to convince me to get into jiu-jitsu class. I guess it's sort of just a slow roll, you just like it. You're like, okay, let me try it. Let me try it again. Let's keep doing it. And before you know it, you've been doing it for so long that to not do it is weird. And yeah, and another thing that I think keeps my love for it too, and this is not the case for everyone, but I never really wanted to work in jiu-jitsu because I sort of want to just keep it like just for doing it because I love to do it and want to do it. And if I want to not do it for a few weeks, which doesn't really happen, but then I can do it, not get overwhelmed. So that's why, I do some other stuff for work, but, love jiu-jitsu as much as anything, but sort of keeping it separate, I guess. Now I'm getting paid for it. So now it sort of is work, but not thinking about it as like I have to do this. It's just like, yeah, I just want to.
And I guess one of the other questions I have is, do we see you back in the gi? Because to me, I know you are in such a place where you're training with a lot of these no gi specialists, and J-Flow being in that room, like the level of balance and the just what he puts you guys through. I look at it and my mouth is agape so many days because I go, oh God, that's so tough to do. But I did get curious where I go, oh man, does he find his way back? Because not everybody has the ability to speak both languages.
I will, for sure, but it won't be like a serious attempt or anything. But I'll probably just get enough points just to go do worlds and things like that, and just give it a whirl and see what happens. Try some weird, funky shit that they don't really see coming. Yeah, I actually, after I got my black belt, which was I think, yeah, March of last year, somewhere around there, I did a gi tournament a month or two later. Just because it was in San Diego, I was like, oh, I got to break the black belt in with a gi match, just to sort of stay true to the roots. So that was pretty cool. I put in a solid like 1 or 2 day training camp for that one in the gi, just throwing it on. But luckily, my gi game is still pretty unorthodox. It's not nearly as put together as my no gi game is now, or well rounded. So I sort of just was like, all right, I'm not really gonna like, freaking try to win by points. I'm just gonna go out here and purely submission hunt. And yeah, luckily that one ended up working. Got a toe hold win and then a triangle to take the gold. Just 2 matches out there. But I was like, sweet, christened the gi in with a black belt gold. Yeah, so I'll probably do the same thing, eventually, just to get some points for worlds and then hop in there and see what happens.
Wonderful. And last question here. Maybe I'm wrong on this. Are you going to be doing the world team in October?
Yes. We're going to Kazakhstan. Very nice.
It is a requirement. You have to do that.
Dude, we have
Tell me a little bit about how you kind of got into that and what you're looking forward to this October.
Dude, it's going to be sick, man. So yeah, I got into that last year. I gave it a shot. Lost to Elliot Kelly in the finals. He out-wrestled me. But yeah, my buddy Sloan mentioned that to me last year. He was like, hey, I'm going to go do this tournament in Pittsburgh. It qualifies us for this other qualifier to where they'll fly us out to Europe. I'm pretty sure he was the one who brought it up to me, at least. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll do it. So yeah, we went out to Pittsburgh, did this qualifier. And then, yeah, then we went to, LA. I lost. So then I knew it was around. So I was like, oh, I'll try it again next year. It comes around. Gave it a whirl this time. Luckily, I was able to take gold. I only had 1 match. And shout out to John Hansen because he won his way over to Kazakhstan earlier in the day in the gi. And then I was going to go against him in the finals of the no-gi. But that guy's such a freaking gentleman and a legend. He was like, hey, man, I already won my free trip. So I'll just bow out of the finals and then you get the other spot and then we'll fly to Kazakhstan together. So I was like, dude, hell yeah, thank you. I mean, like, he's a sick guy and, it'd be an honor to compete against him as well eventually. But I was like, that's fucking awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, flying out to Kazakhstan, represent the US of A in October. It's going to be great.
Well, congratulations on that. John's a beast too. So I'm sure that was a very fun match, but here's what I want to do, man. I want to go ahead and put a pin on this conversation. Clearly there's going to be more success in the future, but I definitely wanted to give you your props for Mad Assassins. And, I've definitely been watching you and I'm stoked to hear that you are in the mix should something happen at ADCC. And obviously we never wish for injuries, but we always hope for opportunities. So should you get the chance to go and compete in that, I think that would be a really, really good thing. And it's a testament to you making a lot of right choices and indulging those instincts to continue competing. So big props to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again for having me on here, man. I've seen your interviews throughout the years and stuff. So it's sweet to make it on here, and get to chat with you. And I'm sure we'll be, we got to have more of these soon because this was a fun one.
We will definitely run into each other more. But before you get on out of here, I'm going to put the camera on you and feel free to go ahead and drop any sponsor mentions or just give any shout outs that you want to, sir. Camera's on you.
Awesome. Shout out to my team, Legion American Jiu-Jitsu. Freaking, where would I be without them? Gold BJJ, these guys have had my back forever. They're San Diego legends in the grappling wear scene, and now it's like worldwide. You just see them everywhere. So thank you, Gold, for everything you've done. And then I've got 2 new sponsors, just freaking awesome, helping me out a lot. Mill Reps and Green Grease. The website's milreps.com for Mill Reps, and GREENGREASE.com for Green Grease. It's like a company, basically grease that's eco-friendly. They're military-owned companies. They support the military, so there's some awesome guys. So check them out.
Well, big ups to you, sir. And like I said, we'll definitely be looking out, and I'm sure, we'll probably, by the next time we even interview, I'm sure you're going to have more modeling photos of you in your gold outfits, because I see you guys rocking that stuff out. So good stuff on that. But big congratulations to you, sir. Keep up the great work. And I look forward to seeing you, if nowhere else, at the very least at Subversive on our mats, man.
Thank you, man. Looking forward to see you too. A super fun time on here. Thanks again for having me.
All right, ladies and gents, that's about to do it for us here on the show today. Let's try this. Does this give me a thing? Why does it only do it for the guest? I don't understand that. That is the wildest thing I've seen. I can't believe it just started doing a thumbs up. It legitimately threw me. I can't. Again, I thought one of the other episodes, I thought I triggered it when that happened. But this being an explosion in the background. Sorry, I'm going to be on that all day. It's so stupid. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, give us a like, comment, and a subscribe. And in the comment section, if you would be so kind, I would love it if you comment on the following question, which is, what is your video game of choice? Now, I asked this because for Breylor, he had a video game that he loved. He was playing these UFC video games in addition to some other role-playing games. But I'm curious, what is your video game of choice? So put that in the comment section if you so feel the spirit. And it does help us get some engagement. So, you know what I mean? Like, wink, wink, do it. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. So there is that. You can also check us out on patreon.com. That is patreon.com/grappling hour. If you go there and you want to pay $5 a month, it goes to help this show. And I truly, truly do mean it when every cent that you put in goes right back into the show. And it really, really does help, especially with all the big things that we are looking to do within the next month. So very much appreciate that love and support. And if you pay a few extra dollars, the premium members get some dope content. And I really, really do mean it when I say thank you so much. You guys are the best. Last but not least, don't forget to join us on our Apple Podcasts and our Spotify at Grappling Hour. And if you want to continue the discussions that we have here on the show, check us out on Discord at Grappling Hour. All right, ladies and gents, that's going to do it for us here at the Grappling Hour. It has been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.